Is all prepared then? Excellent. Then it is time for our friend to be invited to the shack. Go fetch him for me, would you? And be gentle, I would not have him damaged, if it can be avoided. I'll join you at the shack shortly. I have a few last things to prepare in the sanctuary.
What is the music of life?
Silence, my brother. Five Sun's Height, 4th Era, 202. My return to Castle Volkihar was met with only more news of what Fura calls thin blood vampires causing trouble. I thought the last group of them bold, but this one has taken up refuge in the sewer system of Whiterun itself. Bold. Too bold. Garen was considering taking this one on himself, such was the urgency, but with my return I took the responsibility. Whiterun is my city, even if they don't know that, and I will tolerate no poachers there. I left barely half an hour after I had arrived. I have to imagine that, at times, there have been many who have almost found the Brotherhood sanctuary near Falkreath. Given its location, people would have to stumble nearly into it from time to time, and my own arrival today marked one such unfortunate incident for an Imperial soldier. Unfortunate for him, I mean, and who it is who will have to come out here and clean up the area, remove the body and weapons, and whatever else we'll need doing after I put an arrow through his head. He saw me arrive, and I was quite clearly there for something. He'd have started looking in earnest before too long. With that minor detail dealt with, I returned home. Astrid all but ambushed me as I entered. She's been thinking, clearly. And though I'm still not sure how this will all end, she seems to at least be considering the possibility that I am who I and Cicero claim I am. Or at the least she hasn't ruled it out. As she put it, if I really did hear the Night Mother, and she really did give me directions, then we would have to be mad to ignore it. So, I am to go to Volundruud, a crypt in northern Whiterun, to meet with this Amaund Motierre. Either he will be there and our claims will be proven, or he will not, and both of us will look the fool. Well, more the fool, in Cicero's case. I have no doubts, of course, but I can see the wheels turning in her head. If I had to guess, she's hoping it is the latter. That would be easier for her to swallow, easier for her to deal with. Less work, less thinking. Astrid is happy about how things are, especially with her being in charge. At least, it is a step in what I believe is the correct direction. I'm not going to confuse matters by telling her why I know this is all correct. She's having a hard enough time swallowing a corpse giving me orders, so I can't imagine how she would swallow the herald of Akatosh or Ithelia. I can barely swallow those myself. There is tension in the rest of the Brotherhood, and it's not hard to guess why. They all know what I've claimed, what it might possibly mean. Of them all, for the moment, only Krex is remotely accepting of me as the listener. He admires Astrid, calls her a great leader, but the Brotherhood has been rudderless, without direction, for too long. I think he hopes it will all prove to be correct, which, of course, it will. Everyone else, though, is either worried that I might try to take Astrid's position, or thinking I'm straight up insane. Something I learned from my time with Mehrunes Dagon occurs to me. Change is inevitable. If you cling to the past, you will drown in it. I know that things changing can cause fear, but this is no change. This will be a return to the old ways, the true ways. Only glory will follow us. There was one other interesting thing I picked up from Babette, though. She found the name of Motierre to be quite interesting, identifying the family as a very powerful Breton family. Having a Breton family summoning the Brotherhood in Skyrim is very interesting indeed. Perhaps the beginning of a political power play of some kind. I can't wait to find out. I bypassed Whiterun, intending to make my visit to the city an official one on my way back through. Instead, I followed the directions that Astrid and Krex had given me and went straight to Volundruud. The crypt was somewhat northwest of the city, and other than having to deal with a few poachers, bandits, and a dragon with more courage than sense, there was little of any note to worry about. With the moment in front of me, I have to admit I got concerned. I was confident, sure, that there would be someone here waiting for me. I could not help but wonder, though, just for a moment, if I was wrong. What if I had been incorrect in my interpretation of Ithelia's prophecy? If I had been wrong... No. I could not be wrong. I walked down the steps and entered the crypt. I am rarely at a loss, a true and complete loss for words. This... what I have learned tonight is likely the closest I've come to it in recent days. Amaund Motierre was there, along with a loyal retainer and bodyguard, an extremely effective one, judging from the number of dead Draugr located just outside the door to the chamber they had performed the sacrament in. When I entered, I could feel the relief on Amaund. We did not chat. We got straight to the point of my visit. This is not just one contract, but an entire series of them. The details were in a letter that I was to take to Astrid, and one that I will not open. Astrid will need to know I can be trusted if I am to talk her around, and breaking that seal will do nothing to help me. But if Amaund is not just making up claims, then all of these kills are going to be required to get to the real target. I almost could not believe my ears when he told me that we would, eventually, be killing Titus Mede II. We were going to assassinate an emperor, something that the Brotherhood has not done since early in the Third Era, and the changes to how the Empire was run afterwards are nearly a golden age. Killing Mede... This is why Akatosh gave me over to Sithis? To kill an emperor? Why were... No, I will stay the course. If Sithis I am to serve, then I shall do so without question. My blade is his, and the Empire may well never be the same. 6 Sun's Height, 4th Era, 202. Despite the seeming gravity of the contracts given, I did not leave for the sanctuary immediately. Perhaps this will be a criticism of my actions later on, and if so, I will accept it as such. However, it has waited this long, and it can wait slightly longer. Amaund needs a head start to leave this place, and I saw indication on my way in that there might be something relating to the Dovahkiin here. It was relatively straightforward. There was a hole of stories, but there was no puzzle gate. The key, this time, was a pair of ceremonial weapons that I had to... Well, you've heard the saying that one can have something once it has been pried out of their cold, dead hands. It applies here. With them both in hand, I unlocked the door and went further into the crypt. The ghost that reigned in the area beyond the door was not difficult to dispatch. There was, however, a word wall, and a few items that might be of interest to Aryan and the museum. The word was relatively useless to me, a part of Aura Whisper, which allows me to see and feel the presence of living creatures and people nearby. I already have a far better version of this through my vampire blood. Still, there is usually no knowledge that is not useful somehow. With this tomb now cleared out, and Amaund hopefully on his way, the next stop is Whiterun, where I have some vampires to kill. The sun had barely crested the mountains when I walked into Whiterun. I made a few public appearances, but didn't spend much time with it, instead heading for a more secluded entry to the sewer system. Apart from rats and a wisp mother, something I never thought I'd see in a sewer system, and something I avoided, there was nothing to indicate that there were any vampires at all down here. They were buried deep, certainly, and when I finally found my way to a huge door that clearly did not belong in this setting, I thought I'd found my target area. I must admit to some confusion. There were no vampires here, yet Garen clearly believed that there should have been. Instead, I found a trio of Draugr that, while not particularly problematic, were on the more powerful side than I would have expected. They fell in short order, leaving me free to return to the surface and head back to the sanctuary, where we would have a great deal of planning to do. Strange. Garen's information is usually almost as good as Aryan's. I suppose it doesn't always play out as expected. Better to have checked, though, than otherwise. Oh, the things you learn about people sometimes. I expected that Astrid would leap at the opportunity presented us. As Amaund said, the Brotherhood hasn't made an attempt on an emperor since Pelagius, and nobody else has since the mythic Dawn killed Uriel VII. If we pull this off, when we pull this off, the Brotherhood will catapult to new heights of fear and respect again. She needs time to read the letter and start putting plans into place. While she works on that, I am to take the amulet that Motierre gave me and see how much it is worth. And more importantly, if we can even get away with selling it. I expected she would tell me to talk to the Thieves Guild in Riften. That wasn't a surprise. No, she directed me straight to Delvin Mallory. It seems that he and the Brotherhood have a history together. I'd love to hear the details, but it may be smarter not to know. Still, it will be interesting to approach him not as his guildmaster, but as representative of something dark from his past. In fact, I think I'll hide my true identity from him completely. Safer for both of us, that way. It also means a long walk through the south of the province. Fortunately, I have nothing more pressing to worry about anymore. Even my work for Serana and the Volkihar can wait. Delvin was fast asleep when I strolled through the flagon like I owned the place. Of course, I more or less did, but the guild didn't know who I was. They recognized what I was, though. My armor doesn't have any obvious emblems or whatnot, but anyone dressed in armor like mine, they knew what I had to be. I could feel their fear, watched how it prevented them from questioning me at all, especially as it was obvious that I knew exactly where I was going. Delvin, when he realized why he was waking up, immediately went into business mode. Well, after he asked after Astrid, and not as a former associate. I don't want the details, and I certainly don't want the mental images that might go with what their relationship might have been. Once I handed the amulet to him, though, this thing is worth quite a lot after all. An amulet that was special made for each individual member of the group it represents, nothing less than the Emperor's Elder Council itself. He leapt at the chance to take it off of our hands. He's given me a letter of credit for Astrid's use, and the number on it is not a small one. So now it is back to the sanctuary to give Astrid the good news, and to hear what I hope is good news of my own. I hope she accepts that this is real, that I truly am the listener, because if she does not, well, then she might learn the lesson that Periite taught me. Those who best serve you are the very ones who will betray you. Not unless I must, of course. But it is Sithis' will that we do, not Astrid's. I was on my way out when Delvin's last name suddenly jumped into my mind. Mallory? Wasn't that the same as the one Nord who lives in Raven Rock? Maybe a coincidence, but I need to look into this when I find time. Seven Suns Height, 4th Era, 202. I couldn't let it go. Rather than turn back west towards Falkreath, I found myself heading north towards Windhelm. I slept for a few hours and then once again boarded the Northern Maiden, bound for Solstheim. Glover Mallory, the blacksmith. Now that I knew what I was looking for, I could see the resemblance to Delvin, though I could not tell how close that relationship was. How I had missed the shadow mark on the building was even more of a mystery to me, but then I hadn't spoken to this man since I was here to deal with Miraak. Mentioning the shadow mark got him to open up, and Delvin is his brother, as it turns out. Once he knew I was the new guildmaster, I had to explain everything that had happened with Mercer, which he accepted with a nod. He had been sending for help, as he is the only member of the guild on the island. He had been robbed by someone he had thought was a member of the guild as well, and he wants what was stolen brought back. This I can spend more time on, but I sense there is still more to the story. Why would a member of the guild be out here alone? I tracked the thief to a cavern full of Reeklings, which seems to me the dumbest thing he could have done. I'm sure he realized this about the time they were poking him full of holes. They do not, as a general rule, negotiate with humans or elves. Interesting, though. I took a look at the plans that he had stolen, and it was basically a letter from Glover to his brother Delvin. That of itself is no big deal. They are brothers, after all. No, it was a reference to using any profits from these plans to help our little sister that got my attention. What sister? What are they talking about? Maybe it isn't my business, but maybe it is. Glover needs to explain this, I think, and if he wouldn't, then I would definitely try to pin down Delvin when I had the opportunity. Something about this situation seems off, and I will have answers. Rather than return to Raven Rock immediately, I decided to explore this cave somewhat more. The Reeklings here did little to hamper my movements, pests that they are, and who knew? Perhaps something of interest to Aryan might be found here. What I ended up doing, though, I almost didn't survive it. The cave emptied into what, for all I could tell, was a large frozen courtyard. There was even a throne of ice at one end. Once I'd killed the reeklings that were there, I took a closer look at that throne and somehow managed to summon a frost giant. No, that's not right. I summoned a frost giant's ghost. Imagine a frost giant. Now imagine it hitting about 10 times harder with that club they all seem to carry around. Now, just to make things more interesting, imagine it as a ghost that can ignore most of your weapons completely. It was decidedly not fair. Which, usually, I'm fine with, so long as it is not fair in my favor. This was not. Fortunately, the thing was easily distracted by a few spirit wolves, giving me enough time to summon down lightning and start putting bound arrows into it, which seemed to hurt it enough. With it dead once again, I have no intention of sticking around longer. Back to Raven Rock and Glover Mallory. I need to heal up some from this little bit of curiosity. Glover was in the corner club when I returned to the village. The conversation was a brief one, with him evading questions about the sister the plans mentioned. He took the plans back, likely planning to send them to Delvin by way of courier rather than use me as one. He also made it clear that as of this moment, he was a blacksmith. Any ties he had to the guild were to be considered dead. There wasn't anything out here worth robbing anyhow. As such, he handed me a key and told me to take whatever I wanted from his home's locked basement. What I found down there? Glover was no mean thief. From what I saw, he was likely better than Brynjolf, let alone Delvin. As amazing as all of that was, the letter I found down there, no doubt one I was intended to find and deliver, was the thing that made my jaw drop. The entire guild knows Sapphire's story, or what she will tell of it, and it is not a pretty one. Through it, though, there has been one thing that she has never been able to tell us. We thought it a secret, and it is. From her as well. The letter exposes that secret. Now I have to wonder, do I tell her or not? I will have a long trip to Riften to decide that. 8 Sun's Height, 4th Era, 202. In the end, it was never really a choice. Not mine, anyhow. This wasn't information that I could choose to withhold. Glover? Sure. After all, he's been making that choice for years. But by telling me to take what I wanted from that room, he knew I'd find it. Which means he meant for it to become known. Sapphire took it better than I had feared, honestly. At the least, she didn't swear vengeance against a father who wasn't there when the pig farm she was raised on was destroyed. I imagine that eventually she's going to make her way to Raven Rock and find him. Lots of emotions. So glad I won't have to watch it. So that's done. And Astrid is still waiting for Delvin's reply. Delvin. Glover's note implied he doesn't know a thing about this. It might be fun to watch his face when Sapphire goes up to him later and calls him Uncle. A priceless moment that I'm going to miss. The stories from the others, though, will be epic, I'm sure. I have been hearing for months that there was to be a major social event in Solitude. I'm pretty sure that if I checked my mail at the museum, I'd even have an invitation already. If I'd been asked directly, I'd have declined attending. Now, however, it seems that I will most certainly be attending the upcoming wedding of Vittoria Vici, one of the most prominent of citizens in the city. She is, it seems, the first target in Amaund's list, and with good reason. She is a first cousin to the Emperor, and killing her will most certainly get his attention for many reasons. The blood connection is the easy one. The fact that her wedding is also supposed to be a part of the ongoing peace process between the legions and what remains of the Stormcloaks will only make her death even more explosive. The Emperor was originally supposed to attend, but that would have forced him to take a more direct hand in the politics here, which he obviously didn't want. So, to Solitude I go. Or will. I want to check with the other members of the Brotherhood, see if they have any insights on this one. I know Castle Dower fairly well, but any new ways of thinking about how to take this kill is going to be useful. Astrid doesn't care how it's done, so long as it is loud, public, and messy. 9 Suns Height, 4th Era, 202. My conversations with the rest of the Brotherhood were mixed. Babette thought there might be a statue above the balcony where Vittoria will be speaking to the crowd from, and while that might be almost ideal, I'm not sure that crushing her under a large carved stone will generate the panic, fear, and accusations that we want. Gabriella had already done some scouting of the castle walls and located an excellent bowshot position, and that certainly seems like more of the kind of public and messy execution we want. Nazir only added that when she dies it's going to create a great deal of panic, which Vizara added on to, saying I should certainly have my escape planned before I make the kill. Though I need to get to the city to do my own evaluation, this is not the only kill I have to do. Nazir also gave me a trio of smaller contracts to deal with as well, and these will take me to all corners of the province. The first is a wizard who works with the Khajiit caravans called Morandru. A wizard means a bowshot. I'm not risking him waking up in the middle of the caravan just to get another bite to eat. The second is a wreck diver and salvager called Deacus. I have seen him a time or two on the northern shores. Supposedly he's alone, which will open up all kinds of possibilities for the kill, as I likely won't need to worry about any kind of witnesses. The final one will be, of the 3, the most difficult. Anariath, brother to the owner of the Drunken Huntsman in Whiterun, is almost always to be found in his meat stall, but he has to go hunting eventually, yes? A hunting accident in the wilds, near the city, should do nicely. But first, Vici. I arrived early in the morning and made my way to the walls surrounding the courtyard and entry to the Temple of the Divines. The statue that Babette mentioned was easy to find, though it being a dragon head statue seemed a little too pointed for my tastes. The balcony that Gabriella mentioned is the better option, though getting a good shot without being seen is going to be very tricky. The crowd below won't know I'm there, but it is possible that Vici, or her new husband, will when I line up the shot. Plus the crowd, once they realize it was a bow shot, will be looking to the area I shot from as a likely perch. I will have to act quickly if I take that route. The wedding is tomorrow morning, with the reception to follow. That gives me more time to think about how I will handle it, as well as make my presence in the city better known. There are new displays to ensure are completed and a number of quick appearances in the museum proper that would likely take care of that. I have done all I can to plan. Plan when you are able, but remember that chaos is a plan of its own. Sanguine would love how much of this I'm going to have to make up as I go.